Hi friends, it's your boy Cranberry Enthusiast, and welcome to episode 8 of this series in which we are going through the entire book of Daniel, reading it. I'm giving my very wild commentary and pointing out all the very interesting things that come to mind as we see what all is going on here. So this is episode 8. Happy August if you're watching this in August. It should be coming out in August. It's not August though right now, and today is kind of a funny day because as of right now I cannot hear much of anything out of my right ear, so I'm going to the doctors to get my ear cleaned out and stuff, which thankfully seems to be the main problem there. But enough about my ear, and let's get right into chapter 8 as we continue on this series. All right, and also as we as I brought up last time, so chapter 8 should be somehow tying into chapter 5 of the book of Daniel. So if you remember back from episode 5, the writing on the wall and that whole thing, so chapter 8 is supposed to somehow connect to it in some way, and so as we go through chapter 8, let's keep that in mind. Alright, let's go. In the 3rd year of the reign of Belshazzar the king, a vision appeared to me, Daniel, subsequently to the one which appeared to me previously. So let's pause already right away. So this is 2 years, it sounds like, because after the vision we just went over last chapter. And this is with the reign of Belshazzar. Already we have the tie-in to chapter 5 with Belshazzar being the king, and so, and I'm trying to remember how many years was Belshazzar the king. Does it say in chapter 5? I'm not seeing it. It might be though somewhere. Comment below if you know how many years Belshazzar was king before he was killed. Anyway, so we have that already, and so I wonder what this vision is going to be about. Daniel continues, I looked in the vision, and while I was looking, I was in the citadel of Susa, which is in the province of Elam, and I looked in the vision, and I myself was beside Ulai Canal, the Ulai Canal, excuse me, which Susa, I think, isn't Susa referenced in the Book of Esther? Fact check me on that, please, somebody, because Susa sounds really familiar. But anyway, so Daniel starts off with this vision. He's in a citadel of Susa, and a citadel, that is like a well, right? Let's do a quick search. Citadel. What is a citadel? Oh no. A citadel is a fortress, typically on high ground, protecting or dominating a city. Thank you, Oxford Dictionary through Google. And so, so he's in the fortress of Susa, citadel of Susa, but citadel means fortress basically, which is in the province of Elam, and he was beside the Ulai Canal, so canal basically. Anyway, let's continue. Then I raised my eyes and looked, and behold, a ram, which had 2 horns, was standing in front of the canal. And the 2 horns were long, but one was longer than the other, with the longer one coming up last. Coming up last, so I wonder if, like, are the horns positioned, like, forehead and behind his forehead, as opposed to, like, on either side of the ram's head? Let's continue here. I saw the ram butting westward, northward, and southward, and no other beasts could stand against him, nor was there anyone to rescue from his power. But he did as he pleased and made himself great. So, sounds like a terrifying dream. Can you imagine, or vision, sorry, which, and it doesn't say, it seems like this is a daytime vision, so it's not a nighttime vision. Anyway, so Daniel is seeing this ram kind of being very wild and going west, north, and south, anyway, let's continue. While I was observing, behold, a male goat was coming from the west over the surface of the entire earth without touching the ground. and the goat had a prominent horn between his eyes. That's kind of wild. We have a now levitating goat. He came up to the ram that had the two horns, which I had seen standing in front of the canal, and rushed at him in his mighty wrath. And I saw him come up beside the ram, and he was enraged at him. And he struck the ram and smashed his two horns, and the ram had no strength to withstand him. So he hurled him to the ground and trampled on him, and there was no one to rescue the ram from his power. Then the male goat made himself exceedingly great, but once he became powerful, the large horn was broken, and in its place 4 prominent horns came up toward the 4 winds of heaven. So, let's pause there for a second. So first of all, it sounds like kind of a terrifying vision. Like, if I had a vision of some sort of thing, and I mean, sure, rams and goats aren't necessarily the most terrifying of creatures, unless you're being chased by one. But that being said, they are being very violent here, and so we have a really powerful ram, and then he's destroyed basically by an even more powerful goat. But then the goat, like, the goat's horn was broken, his large horn was broken in its place 4, which, harkening back to the previous chapter, I wonder if maybe, when we'll have to see here, thankfully we have an interpretation of the vision later on, stay tuned, but perhaps the ram and the goat each represent different kingdoms, and the ram is a kingdom that's going to be sweeping to the north, west, and south. Then another kingdom represented by the goat is going to come, and with a really powerful king, but then the king is going to like fall or something, and then 4 other kings will come and take his place, which, wow. First, and again, as I've kind of referenced in previous episodes, I'm not really a historian per se, but from what little I've studied of the Roman Empire, I'm thinking about the Roman Empire, and when Rome fell and divided, if I remember correctly, into 4 kingdoms, which 4 horns. Anyway, let's continue here and see what's going on. And out of one of them, so out of one of the 4 prominent horns, came a rather small horn, which grew exceedingly great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the beautiful land. Oh, and I have a note there. The beautiful land probably refers to Israel. It grew up to the heavenly lights, and some of the lights, that is, some of the stars, it threw down to the earth, and it trampled them. That's really interesting. Stars, so like heavenly lights, or literally hosts, I have a note there. And so some of the stars it threw down to the earth and it trampled them. I've heard before the theories and ideas about stars representing angelic beings and like the heavenly host. And so I wonder, because I would imagine, well, and I've also heard the theory that stars can, being thrown down to earth, like represent like atomic bombs. And I don't know. I don't really know exactly what this is necessarily referring to here exactly. But let's continue, and then we can maybe talk more about what things could be. It even exalted itself to be equal with the commander of the army, and it removed the regular sacrifice from him, and the place of his sanctuary was overthrown. And it's interesting, the NASB here has commander and him and his there, and that verse capitalized meaning referring to God, so at least, which I would imagine it would be pretty accurate, that it probably is like saying that this horn, one of the little horns on the male goat, is now like exalting itself and saying that it is God. It removed the regular sacrifice from God. The place of God's sanctuary was overthrown, it says. And so, yeah. So let's continue, because the whereas the text indicates that it's referring to God, and I think that is the case, but it might not be. So let's not throw all assumptions into one basket right at this time. And excuse me. And because of an offense, the army will be given to the horn along with the regular sacrifice, and it will hurl truth to the ground and do as it pleases and be successful. Then I heard the Holy One speaking, and another Holy One said to that particular one who was speaking, "How long will the vision about the regular sacrifice apply? While the offense causes horror, so as to allow both the sanctuary and the army to be trampled. And he said to me, for 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary will be properly restored. That's the end of the vision there. And, okay, I'm really now thinking that this may well be referring to the Roman Empire, because Rome in AD 70, you can look this up online and whatnot, Rome came to Israel and lay siege to Jerusalem and kind of destroyed it, destroyed the temple, completely destroyed the, and he actually went, and I think he, like, if I remember right, the Roman commander or whatever sacrificed a pig in the in the Jewish temple in AD 70, when they had taken it over, and that is a very an offense, to use the terms here, which maybe the offense isn't referring to that particular thing, but yeah, the point being that, like, Rome was kind of exalting itself as the most powerful entity in existence, and it did remove the regular sacrifice from God, like which was still going on even after the time of Jesus, walking physically on the earth and everything, and the place of God's sanctuary was overthrown. I'm pretty sure the entire temple, like, burned to the ground, which, yeah. So anyway, so that's really interesting. But let's continue with the rest of this chapter and see what else is going on. When I, Daniel, had seen the vision, I sought to understand it, and behold, standing before me was one who looked like a man. And I heard the voice of a man between the banks of Ulai, and he called out and said, Gabriel, explain the vision to this man. Oh, wow. I forgot that Gabriel appears in Book of Daniel. If you'll recall, if you're familiar with, say, like, the New Testament, the angel Gabriel is most commonly known for appearing to Mary, who is to be the mother of Jesus, and also to Zechariah. If you can read Luke chapter 1 if you would like to hear more about Gabriel. So Gabriel is, like, a heavenly angel, messenger guy. And standing before Daniel was one who looked like a man. I wonder if that's like a reference to Jesus. It might not be. It might just be like another angel or some sort of figure, or I don't know. But typically when there's or not typically, I guess, per se, but sometimes when things say one who looked like a man, I immediately think about Jesus. But I think that might be also partially because I'm so familiar with the way the Chronicles of Narnia refers to Aslan, which uses similar language, but if I recall correctly. So anyway, so not entirely sure, but so yeah. But then the voice of a man between the banks of the Ulai called out to Gabriel and says, explain the vision to this man, meaning Daniel. So he came near to where I was standing, and when he came, I was frightened and fell on my face. And he said to me, Son of man, understand that the vision pertains to the time of the end. Okay, so first of all, the guy's not calling Daniel Jesus. Son of man was a kind of a common thing that angels would refer to prophets and stuff, calling them the Son of Man or whatever, which Jesus kind of used that title for himself and whatnot too, to kind of bring that, well, it seems like to bring the connection between the Old Testament prophets and what Jesus was doing. And so the Gabriel says to Daniel, calling him the Son of Man, understand that the vision pertains to the time of the end. Now, first thing that kind of comes to my mind in that is like, oh, he's talking about the very end of the world, the apocalypse, and so maybe the stars are atomic bombs with, like, but also it says the time of the end of what exactly? It doesn't say the end of the world. Maybe it's the end of the world. Maybe this is, but given, like, kind of what little I was going over with my limited knowledge, the vision kind of paralleling what we know happened with Rome and with Israel in AD 70. I wonder if it's referring to like the time of the end of the old covenant, basically, whereas and Jesus establishes the new covenant. So let's continue here. Now, while he was talking with me, I was dazed with my face to the ground, but he touched me and made me stand at my place. And he said, "Behold, I am going to inform you of what will occur at the final period of the indignation, because it pertains to the appointed end, or appointed time of the end." Okay, so Gabriel's going to do some explaining here. The ram which you saw with the two horns represents the kings of Media and Persia. Oh, how about that? So, and shout out, this is with Belshazzar in the reign of, so even before the writing on the wall, Daniel got a message saying that the kings of Media and Persia would be kind of wreaking havoc in the world as they knew it, so to speak. So wow. Let's continue. The shaky goat represents the kingdom of Greece, and the large horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Very interesting. And I wonder too, so it's translated here as Greece, I wonder if that could connect to Rome too, because obviously the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire are two different things, but there may not have necessarily been a word for Rome per se to translate, and so a lot of times when people, and because the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire were so similar, a lot of times it seems like people think of them as a similar thing. So, but I don't know too much about necessarily Greek history. Was Alexander the Great a Greek? Because didn't he conquer Israel or something? And did he commit an offense in the temple? I'm not entirely sure. If you're a history major, feel free to comment below and let me know what actually happened, because I don't think I was there when all this was going down. But so yeah, so the shaky goat represents the kingdom of Greece. So which kind of makes sense, knowing I know enough. The Persian and Medes, their kingdom was big and powerful, but then the Greek Empire came and they were really powerful. And so Gabriel continues, the broken horn and the four horns that came up in its place represent four kingdoms which will arise from his nation, although not with power. So I wonder if maybe the broken horn represents Rome, and the four horns represent the four pieces of the Roman Empire that resulted. And in the latter period of their dominion, when the wrongdoers have run their course, a king will arise, insolent and skilled in intrigue, and his power will be mighty, but not by his own power. And he will destroy to an extraordinary degree, and be successful and do as he pleases. He will destroy mighty men and the holy people. And through his shrewdness, he will make deceit a success by his influence, and he will make himself great in his own mind. And he will destroy many while they are at ease. He will even oppose the prince of princes, but he will be broken without human agency. And the vision of the evenings and mornings which has been told is true. But as for you, keep the vision secret, because it pertains to many days in the future. Gabriel stopped speaking there. Let's pause here for a second. So with the vision, so it's we kind of right in the aspect of the ram and the goat and they're different kingdoms, and the horns are like different kings and stuff. So it seems a pretty common thing. Then it's talking about eventually a king will arise and be really powerful, destroy mighty men, holy people. And he will even oppose the prince of princes. It's prince is capitalized there, probably referring to like God or say Jesus, whatever. Not entirely sure what semantic wise necessarily this would be like referring to, so to speak, whether it's talking about God as God the Father in heaven, or like Jesus as Jesus coming back. I'm not entirely sure. But then it says that so the insolent and skilled king, the king who's insolent and skilled in intrigue and doing all this destruction, will be broken without human agency. So probably referring to God taking him down somehow, miraculously maybe, or I don't know, but without human agency. And so yeah, so now the thing that comes to my mind is I'm like, okay, so this king that is being described here, has this king already arisen? Or is this something that is still yet, as of this recording, still to happen, so to speak? Is this going to be like, you know, some world leader trying to take over the entire planet here in this day and age? Or is it referring to like someone back in ancient Rome who kind of took over the whole, you know, Rome was kind of in control of the whole, the world as they knew it, essentially. And so, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. And, because it definitely, like, because it's the latter period of their dominion, so it's like the ram and the goat, meaning Media and Persia and Greece. I mean, those empires have been dismantled for a crazy long time, and the Roman Empire too. But I mean, obviously, its effects are still felt today, I would say. But yeah, I don't know. Let's finish up the chapter and then go over a few different things. So, then I, Daniel, was exhausted and sick for days. Yeah, I can understand, you know, having such a wild vision and then, you know, not even, I mean, getting an explanation, but still probably having a lot of questions, and then you're not supposed to, you know. Gabriel said to keep it secret because it pertains to many days in the future. So then I, Daniel, was exhausted and sick for days. Then I got up and carried on the king's business. But I was astounded at the vision, and there was no one to explain it. And that's where the chapter ends. So, yeah, that's kind of very, very interesting there. So, yeah, so real quick, let us think about how this chapter will be referring to chapter 5, because if I am understanding that right, chapters 5 and 8 are supposed to have some parallels together. So one thing, which we noted right off the bat, Daniel has a vision with during Belshazzar's reign, and Belshazzar's fall of his reign is kind of talked about in chapter 5, which to me that seems like a kind of an inconsequential detail. It's not a huge point, but there definitely is a similar thing. Belshazzar is acting really arrogantly and acting like he is, you know, can do whatever he wants. He can, you know, things that Nebuchadnezzar knew was like set apart for God. Like Belshazzar is like, yeah, I'm gonna like be using these really fancy, you know, like gold vessels. It says that are from the house of God that was in Jerusalem, and then we have, you know, the Gabriel describing a king who is like even opposing the Prince of Princes, and then eventually being brought down. So there's that whole thing, and I mean, just the overall theme of countries attacking each other. There's the just as so Belshazzar's with Babylon, the Medes and the Persians completely, by the end of chapter 5, they've taken over the kingdom. And then in Daniel's vision, the ram, who Gabriel says represents the kings of Media and Persia, is taken over by, or destroyed by Greece, basically, which is what the shaky goat Gabriel says represents. So there is that there too. After we finish this series, I am curious about like looking more, finding any other details that I might have missed. But yeah, it's yeah. Had I not heard of that framework per se, I'm not entirely sure how much of these chapters 5 through 8 now, with them kind of like mirroring each other. I obviously see some parallels and stuff, but I also don't see it to be super parallel because probably, you know, I am lacking a lot of context, and I also don't read Hebrew or Aramaic or whatnot. I wasn't there. I didn't meet Daniel or see his visions with him, but by reading this, we can kind of understand a little bit of what his visions were like, though, too. So anyway, But I think that will about do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching, and comment below as always if you have any comments, questions, concerns, and we will see you again next time, in which we will be going over Chapter 9, and Chapter 9 should be, we'll see any parallels between Chapter 9 and Chapter 4, and so, yeah, looking forward to that. So, thank you all for watching. See you later.